know y'all eating and everything, but I need a little bit of feedback. Have y'all been enjoying mixtapes and mistakes? Have y'all been enjoying this series? Okay, because Pastor AJ really has been knocking it out the box with this series. He's really been, really giving us some great tools, because we know as we are navigating life, as we're going through this journey, there are often times where we're, contemplating, how do I move in this season? Is this a time that I need to pause? Is this a time that I need to reset, rewind, go back in my life? And so it's interesting, because I was listening to Pastor AJ talk about mixtapes, and y'all used to make mixtapes, right? Back in the 80s, 90s, y'all. I know I'm dating myself. Some of y'all probably weren't even born. But when you made mixtapes back in the day, it's interesting because he was talking about, recording them and making them. But I was the recipient of quite a few mixtapes. Back in the day. And what would happen is guys that liked you a little bit, they'd give you a little tape, and they had these songs on it, and they would want you to listen to the lyrics, Tenderoni and these little songs they would have, and they want you to listen to the lyrics of the mixtape. And sometimes my friends and I would have competitions where we would challenge each other with who would make the best mixtape. So you'll borrow a mixtape from one of your friends, and you would be listening to it, and you listening to the mixtape. You're like, okay, I got the best hits of the 90s, and I got my Salt and Pepper on there. I got my JJ Fad on there. I got all my girl bands, and people were excited about competing about these mixtapes. But the thing with borrowing a mixtape or receiving a mixtape, you are not in control of the selections. You're not in control of what's on the tape, so you get it and you're just listening to it. And sometimes you're getting it and you vibing a little bit. You're like, all right, this is good. And then sometimes you get to a song that you don't really care for. You're like, I'm not connecting with this. I don't really like this song. And then what do? We fast forward, right? We fast forward. And so that's what we're talking about today. Today we are going to talk about fast forward. How do we navigate life's acceleration seasons? When you are in the world of mixtapes and cassette tapes, fast forward is a function that allows you to skip ahead. It allows you to move quickly through content that you want to bypass. So you hit the fast forward and you're able to skip to the part that you like. You're able to skip back to the song that you like. But in life, it's a little different. In life, when we fast forward, it's a season where we want to accelerate. And sometimes we want to accelerate because it's a difficult season. It's challenging. Things are really tough right now. Many of us have had a challenging 2025. I know I have. And I know people surrounding me, there's been a lot of death in the top of this year that people I have been connected to personally, friends and family members have been experiencing. And these are seasons, honestly, I wanted to hit the fast forward button and make it through some of this. Sometimes we need to fast forward because we need to make decisive changes in our life. There is something that we need to shift and we need to change and we need to make a decisive move and we need to fast forward in that. Or we need to rapidly progress toward a particular goal. We need to move forward and hit a mark. And so sometimes we're hitting fast forward. But unlike a tape, you miss content when you fast forward on the tape. You don't even hear the song. You go through it and, and you don't hear it. But in life, fast forwarding is about intentionally changing your pace without missing the lessons. It's intentionally changing the pace that you're moving through a season, but you don't miss the content. You still see it, you still experiencing, but you're changing your pace. And so there's a verse I want to look at that we want to start with in Amos chapter 9. There's a verse I want to look at in Amos chapter 9. And I pulled up the Message version of this. And it reads this way. It says, yes, indeed, it won't be long now, God's decree. Things are going to happen so fast your head will swim. One thing fast on the heels of another. You will not be able to keep up. Everything will be happening at once, and everywhere you look, blessings. I need one of those accelerated blessing seasons. I don't know about y'all, but I need one of those right now. But much of the book of Amos is one of those prophets that was the voice of accountability for the northern region of Israel. He was the voice of accountability. And so much of the book of Amos, he's delivering warnings of judgment because Israel kept being disobedient. Israel just was like us, just wasn't going to do right. They were not going to do what God told them to do. And so Amos consistently gave them judgment. But in chapter 9, what we see here, Amos's tone shifts from judgment to restoration. He speaks prophetically of a season where God is about to move powerfully and swiftly in blessing and restoring his people. And this is important because what would have normally taken a long time in their lives, when he talked about in this season, planting and waiting and harvesting, when you plant a seed, you don't eat the fruit in the same season. There is time that it takes for it to develop, for it to mature, for it to grow. But Amos said, in this season, God is about to expedite and move up things in your life. So you lost a lot in the past seasons. You had a lot of judgment. You had a lot of challenges. You went through some difficult seasons in your past seasons. He says, but in this season, I'm going to speed up the process to restore these things to you. I'm going to speed up the process to get you back on track. And what would have taken a long time, he says, the season of planting and waiting and reaping, they're going to start to overlap. As soon as you plant, you're going to see stuff pop up. As soon as you start making the right move, you're going to see things start to pop up in your life. As soon as you get on the right track, you're going to see things start to look better in your life, start to flourish. He says, I have the ability to expedite. And what God was saying is, I'm going to fast forward your period of restoration. I'm going to fast forward you getting back those things that you lost. I'm going to fast forward you achieving those goals ahead of you. He says that he is able to redeem the time. That means that he is able to give back to you lost time. We always say you can't get your time back. No. God is able to redeem time back on your behalf. So instead of it taking you 5-10 years that it normally would have taken you to accomplish something, you're able to see sudden breakthrough. You're able to see instantaneous movement. He says, I'm able to give it back to you. We can't give it back to us, but he says, I'm able to redeem it. And so he is going to fast forward this period in their life. So I just want to encourage somebody that no matter how challenging the season you have been in, no matter how long you've been waiting, no matter how difficult the past has been, God can and he will quickly restore and redeem and accelerate things back into your life. I just want to encourage you with that. And so the first thing we want to look at really quick, I'm going to speed through this, but first thing we're going to look at is, when do we need to fast forward? How do we know when we need to fast forward in our life, right? And so there are a couple things that we're going to look at so that will give you indicators that it's time to accelerate in your life. One is if you are stuck in a pattern that no longer serves your purpose. If you are stuck in a pattern in your life, some of us just on autopilot. We just get up in the morning, we go to work, we go through the same, our days look like Groundhog Day. We just go through the same day over and over and over and over again. There is nothing new. There is no excitement. There's no new ideas. There's no new people, no new relationships, no new connections, no new vision. We just are on Groundhog Day going over and over and over in a same pattern. And some of us don't even realize that the pattern is no longer even serving our purpose. God has called us to do something. That pattern may have worked then, but a lot of times what got you here won't get you there. And too many of us are stuck doing what got us here. So we know what got us to this day, this year, this age, and we're stuck in that pattern because it worked in the past, but it doesn't work anymore. And so sometimes you have to realize that it is okay to walk away from things that still work, but that don't work for you. It don't have to be broke for us to walk away from it. It doesn't have to be broke down for us to walk. It doesn't have to be bad. It just doesn't work for me anymore. So it's okay to walk away from things that are still working just because they don't work for me anymore. Also, another indicator it's time to fast forward is when God is calling you to pivot into a new direction. Sometimes we are going in a particular direction. We're going on, God told us to go do this thing, and we're going to do that thing. And sometimes we've gotten that thing that God has told us to do, and we just kept going. We didn't even check back in with God and say, God, is this still the direction that you want me to be in? Is this still the pathway you want me to be on? It could be a career change. It could be a relationship. It could be a ministry. It could be anything that God has called you to do. And it might have been his call for that season, but that doesn't mean it's permanent for your life. And sometimes God has to call us to pivot into a new direction. And if you are feeling like, I don't know, this is not feeling like the place that I should be moving, and this doesn't feel like the right direction for me anymore. This doesn't feel like I had a major career shift in my life. I worked solely in construction for a very, 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 very long time, and I was okay with it. And it wasn't until God started to bring opportunity in my life, people into my life that were shifting me. And I'm like, God, what are you saying? Is it time to move away? He's like, no, I'm going to show you something new. And so he began to pivot me, but that's when I knew that it was a season for me to accelerate in a new new direction. I'm sorry. And then the last one is, this is for me. I know this is not y'all. I put this here solely for me, okay? This point is specifically for me. I know that you all don't do this, but when you have spent too long hesitating or procrastinating, that's me. That's me. I'm not even looking at y'all. I know that's me. When God has given you a vision, he has given you a purpose, he has given you a mission, he has given you something to do, he's called, he's given you vision to bring to life, and you just hesitate. Can I do it? We struggle with our thoughts. Is this the time? Do I have enough money? Do I know enough people? Is this the right thing? We will hesitate and procrastinate and hesitate and procrastinate. That is when you know it is time to move forward. You don't know the time that God has allotted for you to do that thing. And many of us are in accelerated seasons now because we procrastinated way too long. There was a season that God gave you 5 years to do this thing because you sat around on your butt for 4 years. Now you got to get it accomplished in 1 year. Now we're in a season of acceleration just because we hesitated too long. We procrastinated too long. And so those are some indicators of when it is time to fast forward in your life. So we don't have a fast forward button in our life, right? We don't have a literal fast forward button. So how do we fast forward? That's what I want to look at. How specifically do we fast forward? We can't just skip whole years in our life. I'm going to just skip 47 and I'm going to just move on. We can't just do that. So how do we fast forward? The first way we begin to evaluate and move forward is discernment, right? We have to ask ourselves, is this truly a season I've been called to accelerate? There's a scripture in Genesis chapter 12, and I'm going to read it for you. Verses 1 through 4. It says, the Lord said to Abram, leave your native country, your relatives, and your father's family, and go to the land that I'm going to show you. Down in verse 5, it says he took his wife, Sarah, his nephew Lot, all his wealth, his livestock, all the people he had taken into his household at Haran, and headed for the land of Canaan. You have to discern if God is telling you, because you have to seek God's timing. You have to pray. You have to be in alignment with the word of God. You have to have wisdom from God. And in this scripture, God told Abraham, he says, go. He says, leave now, go. And so Abraham was certain that he had a sure word from God. He knew that this was the time, this was the season. He didn't even know where he was going. He just knew that God told me to move. He had a word from God. When you have a trusted word from God, when you have a clear word from God, we talked in the first series of this year about the voice of God. We said if you don't develop any other skill in your life, if you can't do nothing else, you have to know how to hear the voice of God. You have to know when God is talking to you. You have to be able to tell his voice from every other voice. And I am telling you, when you hear the voice of the Lord tell you to move, you got to move. When you hear the voice of the Lord to tell you stop, you got to stop. You have to follow the voice of the Lord. And Abram didn't even know what was ahead. He just knew, I heard God and I trust him. I know that I heard God telling me to move, and I trust his word, so I'm just going to step out. He had inner peace about it. You have inner peace about that decision because he moved forward quickly. There was no delay. It was no hesitation, no procrastination. He just moved on the voice of God. The next thing is, once you know that you have a voice, the word from the Lord, that it is time for me to accelerate, the second thing is preparation. How do I set myself up for successful acceleration into the next season? How do I set myself up properly? We have a good example in the book of Exodus. Exodus chapter 12, verse 33, it says this, all the Egyptians urged the people of Israel to get out of the land as quickly as possible, for they thought we're all going to die. The Israelites took their bread dough before the yeast was added. They wrapped their kneading boards in their cloaks, and they carried them on their shoulders. All the people of Israel did as Moses had instructed them. They asked the Egyptians for clothing and articles of silver and gold. The Lord caused the Egyptians to look favorably on the Israelites, and they gave the Israelites whatever they asked for. When you are preparing to accelerate into a new season, you have to make sure you have the necessary resources. You got to make sure that you're prepared to move, because you won't have time to pick it up. Remember Amos, he said stuff is going to happen back to back. Things are going to be happening so quickly, it says it's going to make your head swim. Sometimes we don't get resourced. We don't get mentally prepared. We don't get emotionally prepared. We don't get physically resourced. And we just move into a season too fast. And when we get there, we're not ready. When God opens a door, we're not ready to walk through it. When God gives us an opportunity, we're not ready to take advantage of it because we did not get prepared. And so it is time that many of us start to prepare for the season of acceleration that God is going to make available to you. You have to ask yourself, am I really ready for what I'm praying for? Am I really ready to receive the thing that I have been praying for? The honest answer most of us have is no. If God gave you that thing that you have been praying and seeking him for right now, would you be able to manage it? Would you be able to steward it? Would you be able to handle it? Most of us wouldn't be. And so we have to ask ourselves, how do I prepare myself? I have to have a clear destination. The Israelites, they knew that they were following Moses. Hey, we're running out of here. It says that they got the bread. They didn't even add the yeast to it. They just had a dough. And they were going out, and they got their cloaks. They threw them over their shoulder. They ran and grabbed some silver and gold. They grabbed the things that they thought they would need on this journey, and they got out of there. You have to be able to respond quickly to the word of God, to the direction of God, and you have to be ready in order to respond. And so, again, preparation, discernment first and then preparation. The last one is focus. How do I maintain direction during acceleration? That's going to be very important. In Luke chapter 9, verse 51, we see it says, as the time drew near for him, they're talking about Jesus, to ascend to heaven, Jesus resolutely set out for Jerusalem. Jesus had been doing ministry all around the land, and now he's like, okay, it's about time for me to ascend unto the Father. The time is drawing near, and it says he resolutely, that means he was focused. That means he was fixed on his destination. That means he knew exactly where God was calling him to. Listen, and here's the thing, even though he knew it was going to be challenging, it was going to be hard, it was going to be painful, he still was determined to press and persevere into that next season. And we have to be focused on getting to the destination, even when we got to go through rough waters, even when we got to go through the wilderness, even when we got to go through challenging seasons. We still have to be so focused on the destination and the mission that we don't give up. We don't get detoured. We don't get distracted. And so it says that he kept his eyes focused. And that's how he was able to endure the journey of the cross. People were spitting at him and throwing stuff and beating him. He was able to endure because he was focused. He was focused, I'm just going to make it to the Father. I'm just going to make it to the goal line. I'm going to go and I can hear well done. And sometimes we have to just have that type of determination and focus. And then we have to regularly assess that we're on the right path. Many times we get out and we just run. We just go to run, and we don't check back in with God to make sure we're still on the right path. If you ever watch track and field, anybody ever watch track and field, you watch a race? You notice when a runner is running, their eyes are straight ahead. They're not looking, how close are they behind me? Let me see who else over here. Oh, it's two more people over. You lose speed when you begin to look around. You lose speed. You step out your lane. You get off track when you begin to try to see what everyone else is doing. You have to stay focused on what's for me. You got to stay focused on what God has called you to do. You have to stay focused on your assignment. Too many of us are distracted by other people in their races. We're too distracted by what other people are doing and what they have going on and what they're achieving, how fast they're running. We have to stay focused, because remember, your race is not against the other runners. Your race is against the clock. When you are running track, I'm not running against the people in the lanes next to me. I'm running against the clock. And when you just stay focused and you stay determined and you stay focused on the goal line, you will come out a winner. And so that's what Jesus did. He says, I am going to maintain my focus regardless of what's going on around me. I am going to stay focused. And so that is how you are able to fast forward. You have to discern that you have a word from God. And then you have to be able to prepare for that season or that move and then stay focused on the destination. Now, I do want to make sure that not only do I give you the tools of fast forward, there's also some danger in improperly fast forwarding, right? And I know y'all had some mixtapes back in the day. Y'all know y'all fast forward and you say, oh, I went too far. You try to rewind and then what would happen? That little tape would just fall all out. It's all outside and you're like, oh, Lord. Now you got to get a pencil, number 2 pencil. We got to be trying to wind it back up and put it back in because it's all, then we got it, now it's twisted and I got to pull it back out again because it got twisted on the way. And we know if we fast forward and rewind through seasons in our life, we can get off track like that too. We can get all out of whack because we're not moving properly. We're not moving to the right space. Thank God they brought CDs. You could just skip to the next song. We have to do all of that. But there are dangers to improperly fast forwarding. And so I want to look at some of those. The first one is you can move ahead of God's timing. Just because God says speed up, you have to make sure you are moving at the pace of God's grace. You have to make sure you're moving in sync with God. You don't want to get ahead of him. You don't want to be too far behind him. You want to be in sync with the pace of God's grace. The next one is you can rush to escape necessary growth. You can be trying to get through a season so fast that you miss what God is trying to do and equip and build in you in that season. We just want to get out of it. Oh, I just want to get through this. Oh, I can't. I just got to get. But God is trying to work on your attitude in this season. God is trying to work on your faith in this season. God is trying to work on your perspective in this season. God is trying to work on your ability to take a licking and keep on ticking. God is trying to work on some things in you, but too many of us just want to get out of it. I got to get out this pain. I can't keep going through this. We just want to get out there, and we don't take notice of what God is doing. We cannot allow the length of the journey to cause us to forfeit the strength in the journey. We cannot allow the length of the journey to cause us to forfeit the strength in the journey. There are some things that are developed in you. There are more things that will be developed in you in hardship than in harvest. I am telling you, you will be more developed and equipped by going through hardship. That's why some of y'all have so much hardship. It ain't just because God don't like you or he mad with you. Some of you just are not growing through it. You got to look at, why am I going through this over and over? And God is trying to develop you. God is trying to grow something in you. He's trying to mature you, but we're so ready to get out of it, we miss the lesson. Another danger is accelerating to the wrong destination. God said go, we don't even know where we go. We just move fast. We just take off running. And sometimes we're making the right decision, but we end up in the wrong destination. Because we didn't even check, God, where'd you want me to go? God just said, hey, this is the season I need you to focus on your professional career. We done went and applied for a new job. Wait, hold up. I didn't even tell you go get a new job. I just said, he might have wanted you to just focus on professional development in your current environment. We done quit. We done moved. The Lord said move. You know, we just will go quick. And then end up in the wrong, and then get over there, Lord, help me. I don't know what happened. You said move. You know, I'm over here, this new job. These people over here nasty. He didn't even tell you to go there. You did not get the full instruction. We get to moving so fast. We just ready to go. I was ready to get up out of here anyway. I'm just ready to go. And then we end up at the wrong destination, and we wonder why it's not working. This is a season God say, work on your relationships. Oh, now we done hopped up and got married. Wait a minute. I ain't say which relationship. Now you like, Lord, save this husband, save this wife. Lord, why you gave this person to me? I didn't tell you to do that. You were not listening. You didn't get the full instruction. Too many of us are accelerating, but in the wrong direction. We got to make sure we have the full download. God, where are you? Which relationship? You talking about my mama? You talking about my siblings? You talking about my coworkers? You talking about my boyfriend? What are you talking about? Get clarity. And the last one, the danger of improper fast forwarding, is missing important relationships along the way. Sometimes we are, and I used to be really guilty of this. I am so task sometimes focused on a goal or a task, I will miss all the people I just passed by to get to it. I ain't see none of y'all because I was so focused on getting through the door. I'm looking straight ahead. I ain't even, people waving, and, hey, how you doing? I ain't even see you. And so many of us move through life like that. God tells us to do a particular thing, to move to a particular destination. We're just focused on getting there and getting it accomplished and getting it finished. We miss all of the divine connections that God is resourcing us with along the way. We're missing all of the relationships. We're missing all of the people that God is putting in your path, and for you to have connections and influence in this next season. We've missed all of that because we have just been moving so fast toward the goal that we miss everything that God is, everyone that God is putting in our path. We can't allow progress to cause us to miss people. God is in the people business. Even with your mission, even with your goal, even with what he has called you to do, it is never absent of his people. God is in the people business. And so as we end right here, because we're going to answer some questions and then we're going to do some table time, but spiritual growth will require decisive movement. You are going to have to make a decision. We can't waffle. We can't continue to waffle back and forth in our faith and our life. We can't continue to, just be blown to and fro. We have to be able to make decisive movement, and then we have to have courage when God calls. When God speaks to you, when you discern this is a season that it's time to fast, it's time to move. It's time for me to get it done. It's time for me to be focused. It's time for me to be on point. It's time for me to get my stuff together. You have to have the courage to do it. And then as you begin to move, you got to trust God's guidance because you won't get the full map up front. He's going to give you 1, 2 little pieces, 1, 2 little steps. You just got to trust him. You got to move and sync with him, and you got to trust him. That means you got to keep checking in. You can't just say, okay, go, you told me I'm going here, and I just take off. There's so many paths, so many turns, so many pivots that he may cause you to make. And then the last one is you have to find the balance between faithful acceleration and patiently waiting. Some of us don't know how to wait. We love the fast forward seasons. We love accelerate. I like speed. I drive fast, if you don't know. I like to move fast. I move fast, I walk fast, I talk fast, I drive fast. Waiting is hard for me. And you have to get a balance between patiently waiting and faithfully accelerating, because even if you're on a highway, there may be some times you wide open, you could drive 90, 100 like I do, or don't listen to me, kids, I'm sorry. But you may drive the speed limit 70 or 50 like I do. And then there are times where there is a detour. There's a stop sign. There is a time that you have to stop. You have to slow down. You have to be able to pull back, and we have to be able to find balance in those seasons. So as we go to our table time today, as we begin to evaluate the whole series, right? Looking at when do we pause, when do we rewind? Pastor AJ has some great questions. I want to add another question. I want you to evaluate where may God be calling you to fast forward in your life right now? What area may he be calling you to accelerate in right now? Is there something that he's causing you to move forward in? And then what hesitations or fears may be keeping you from accelerating? There's some things he's telling you to do. Everybody in here can raise your hand and spit out one thing really quick probably God told you to do that you have not done, that you have hesitated on, you have procrastinated about. And you have to think about, what is causing me to hesitate? Am I lacking trust? Am I not believing in God? Do I not have clear instructions? Do I not have enough faith? You have to begin evaluating that. So as we have our time, Pastor AJ is going to come up, and he just decided today that we're going to take some live questions. So we're going to take some live questions first, and then we're going to have our table time. Did y'all get something from this today, from Fast Forward?
That was good.
Yeah, I got something from Fast Forward?
That was good. Now, granted, it was not off the cuff that we decided, but that was, put your hands together one more time for Pastor Charisma. She always is always in my backyard investigating things I got going on and trying to correct me through her messages. So it's always a blessing. Now, that was good. That was good. Fast forward. Got to fast forward, but we got to do it right. So here's what we want to do in this moment. Of course, throughout this month, we've had the opportunity of really just touching on a couple different topics, like when to hit the play button, when to hit the stop button, Last week we talked about when to hit the pause button in life, and then of course today dealing with fast forward. And so we want to open up the floor just to some questions that you may have about the series, right? So if you want to know about the scriptural breakdown of Deuteronomy chapter 2, don't ask that right now. That'll be a Bible study we'll do on a Wednesday night. All right, join us for deeper on that. But any questions that we have that we can answer for you, we want to just open up the floor at this moment, and then we'll transition into our community tables here in a second. And Miss Jamaica has the mic. Don't be afraid now, because I get pulled to the side. We'll go to Sierra first, and then we'll come to Brother Melvin. Hold on, they bring you the mic so they want to hear your voice.
Good morning. Okay, so you spoke about dangers of moving fast, moving forward. You say moving ahead of God's time. How do you know you're moving ahead of God's time? Timing.
There are promises that God gives us in His Word about being His protection. I mean, in His presence, right? One is protection. When you are abiding under the shadow of the Almighty, when you're with God and you're moving in sync with God, you are protected from some things. Sometimes you can tell by what is happening in your life that, okay, God, something is happening, right? You can always seek Him. He says, if any man lacks wisdom, let him ask. Right? So if you're not clear, God, are you with me? You know, it felt like things were moving smooth. It felt like we were in sync. Now all of a sudden, I feel tension. Something's feeling weird. It doesn't feel off. You have to listen to your life, you know? And sometimes your life is giving you indicators. Wait a minute, God, I don't feel God's presence here. And then honestly, when you spend time with God, you know when He's around and you know when He's not. You can feel when God is not with me at this moment. And sometimes we've pulled away from Him. It's not that He's pulling away from us. He says, if you draw near to me, I'll draw near to you, right? And sometimes we're in a season where we're so busy moving, we're forgetting to draw near to Him. So when we're not near to Him, He's not near to us. And you can start to feel that in your life. You can feel the absence of, you can feel the absence of God in your life. You have something to add?
Interesting. The Bible says that His yoke is easy and His burden is light, right? And so I think a lot of times it's not necessarily that effort is needed, but when you feel like you're toiling, you know what I mean? When it feels like it's an uneasy lift, I think you got to begin to be willing to pause for a second and really start searching God, like, hey, Lord, is this still the direction you want me to go in? Am I outside of your will, your purpose, your plan? And I think, as the scripture also tells us, you know, lean not on your own understanding, right? When you find yourself in moments of life where you're depending on only your own logic and your own wisdom or ability to get through something, and it feels like you continuously walking up against a wall, that may be a moment to take a second and go, okay, maybe I'm out of timing or out of alignment, right? And really beginning to, once again, draw near to God, because as long as He's directing my path, then I should continue to move. And so knowing His timing is really just being sensitive to His presence. Yeah. Right?
In that toil piece, he mentioned that was really, really good, because when God is not there, oftentimes you don't see the fruit of results. Yeah. And so you're working, remember James and John, they're out fishing. The Bible said they toiled all night long, but they did not catch anything. So when you're doing a lot of work, a lot of effort, you're putting forth, but you're not seeing results, you're not seeing fruit, nothing's happening. Notice when Jesus gets in the boat, He tell them go back to the same area that they were just fishing in, launch your net out again, and they're like, we just did this, but okay, nevertheless, at your word, but because He was there, now the net breaks, they got all these fish. And so a lot of times it's the results. You're toiling, you're working hard, you're sweating, you're doing everything you feel is right, but I'm not seeing the result. You know.
That's good. That's good. We'll come here and then we'll come here. Gotcha.
My question is ain't pertaining to the message. It's just I got a question of great concern. God, in His infinite wisdom, before Jesus went to the cross, and God knew the ones that were going to accept Christ before time, right? Predestined, elect. So did Jesus die for the elect, the predestined, or the whole world?
We got
All
to
right.
teach on that. That's
Yeah,
not
that-
that's
that-
not a
that's
not
a-
a quick, Melvin. That's not
All
a.
right, I'll say this. That is a great question, and I know what you're alluding to, because you're trying to determine, was it for only a specific group or was it for all, right? That is going to be something we'll teach on, because that is a salvation conversation of how are we saved? Are we saved? Do we stay saved? And so I actually thank you for asking that, because I now want to walk through that. Because I think that's a question that a lot of times, and I don't know about any of you, but I know even in my own life, there have been seasons where I've asked myself, like, am I saved? Or, am I on the right track? Am I moving in the right direction? So I think that's a great one, and that's good, because I've been also praying about where do we go next in some teachings. And so I want to answer that in its entirety the right way and be able to walk through some scriptures properly. But thank you for asking that, Brother Melvin. Definitely is on my list, and we'll navigate that.
Good morning. Thank you
morning.
for that wonderful message.
She killed it, right? She killed
She-
it. Yeah, she killed it.
I just wanted to add,
Yeah,
if
please.
that's okay,
Please.
based on Sierra's question, because something happened, I think like the end of sometime last week, where my daughter was trying to make a decision at work. And she was hesitant about it, didn't really have peace about it. We talked about praying and fasting about it. We're talking about God's timing, right? Praying and fasting about it, drawing near to the Lord. And so also she had to go to her supervisor and ask, permission for what it was she wanted to do. And so the supervisor, told her this, that, and the third. She went ahead and did the next step. And that person came back and said, oh, this is not going to happen, or, the chances of it happening are not good. And so she came back to me, and she was really anxious about it. And I said, well, first of all, you're anxious about it. But secondly, if you're in God's timing, He is going to open the door. And when she went to that second stage and this person was saying, no,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That was the sign of a closed door. Now, how do we put that into, because it's spiritual, but it's also practical, right? And so then I think about when, was it the Pharisees or the Sadducees asked Jesus about the coin, like in about paying taxes, and he said, okay, whose face do you see on this coin? And it's Caesar's face, right? So he said, render to Caesar what belongs to him. And so what I was telling her is that we know that God is a God of order, right? And He is not going to call you to do something that is outside of order. And so you have to follow this protocol, right? And so right now, He has not opened that door, because if it's time, then the door is going to be open for you to take the next step. And so I just wanted to share that, because that fell on my heart, and it really has a lot to do with timing. And one morning I was walking, and God just gave me this in my heart, which was you have to learn to work within the system, but think outside of the box. Right? Think outside of the box in terms of we're in the world, but not of the world, but we still have to, go and do things in order. So that's it.
Good. That's good. That was good. He puts before us an open door. Any other questions? We'll leave it for one more. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you for your time. Hey, we're going to be coming around the tables here in a second to just drop off some questions for you. As always, those are just guiding questions, or how to maybe start the conversation. But of course, we'll have some of our leaders at each table, and of course, we'll just walk through this conversation together. So thank you once again. We'll just go for about a couple minutes here, just to give everybody an opportunity to interact, and then we'll be back up to close us out this morning. Thank you so much for your time. And once again, let's put our hands together for Pastor Charisma. Great message. And of course, that message, I say it every time, every message is always reserved online. So go back, watch it again, listen to it, pull some more notes from it, get the scriptures, because I'm telling you, we want to not just be hearers of the word, but we want to be doers of the word as well. All right?